welcome to our 116th episode of Gorilla Radio. I'm Joe Caprino. We have Mike here. He was scouting some young folks in the Hobart Wrestling League, and you got your youth rankings for third and fourth graders ready yet?
I'm just gonna submit them to the youth board. We don't have an elementary ranking yet, so we'll have to get it going. We have our middle school ranking system. Next step, right?
Yep. Yeah, we gotta get our youth.
It was good.
We gotta get the youth. We gotta start. Kindergartners. Rocco's in kindergarten. If Rocco's not number one ranked kindergartner in the state, I'm gonna. There's some heads are gonna roll.
They had a lot of kids out. It was cool. It was a cool event. Seeing Coach Cook and those guys there. They were busy. I didn't bother them. But my nephew wrestled. I don't know if he wrestled twice. I ended up leaving after his first one, so we can get back here and do the Gorilla Radio. It's only about a 45-minute drive for me, and but he won by fall. So they had some good kids. They had a lot of kids. They had like 3 elementary schools, 20 kids per team. So,
oh wow,
not bad for a Monday night.
Nice.
90 kids. Joe Hansen said 90 kids tonight.
I
My numbers were way
from
off.
Hobart can count to 90, so I think that's fake news.
There was a lot of kids. There was a ton. And I was underestimating with 20 per team, but now there was a lot of kids there, a lot of people there. Some tough kids, some kids that looked like they were learning, good coaches. All the coaches were spread out for the teams, which was pretty cool.
Nice. Good to see. I know everyone does their elementary and youth kids a little bit different. But that competition and stuff, and you know how those elementaries go up against each other is always pretty cool.
Went 2-0. I missed the second match. He's been working hard. He just got back into it. His soccer season ended, so no, it's good, man. I like that they do that. Saw Jake Simpson out there doing some officiating.
How was his officiating?
Could be better. No, he did a good job. Frankie Forrest is out there officiating, so not a bad officiating crew.
Nice. Yeah, they got some state experience, so they can at least throw that weight around a little bit. Forrest is like, just show this. Hey, do you have any of these? Okay, I don't think you want to question me.
Yeah, I think they'll have a strong group. Those guys, it seems like their kids club's been growing. I know my brother's been in there a couple times. He's floated to a couple different places.
Man, Cook is ruthless with his referees. I guess. Hey, just like he is one. Does Cook spend as much time at the table question referees at the youth as he does the high school events, or?
I think they're all kind of floated. It was good, man. The one Corbella Wesley, Coach Wesley's daughter. I know like his son wrestled too, but she looked tough.
Cook should be running the table, running clock or something as much as he spends over at talking to the refs over there. I'm not gonna live
respectful. It's a respectful question.
Respectfully. It's gotta be nice to Coach Cook and Enzo Johansson. I gotta see his sleeve. Is it look a little bit better now since magic markers are getting finer tips and everything. So focus on the kids. So yeah. Anyway. We'll it's good. I always like to hear, it's very interesting to see how different schools have their youth programs set up. And, obviously they're having their elementaries face off with each other, have a little bit of pride in those things. Carroll, I think we have 7 or 8 elementaries. I don't even know anymore. They're a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
That is a lot. Hobart only has 3. I was surprised. I was surprised we only had 3 elementary schools.
Yeah. Yeah, we just opened a new one, but they're pretty small elementaries, and then they all feed into 2 middle schools and then 1 high school. So it gets big real quick for the kids. So, but yeah, that'd be kind of fun to do, pair up the elementaries, or at least a couple of them together. So
Yeah, I thought it was a cool event. Seemed like all the kids enjoyed it. Uh, it was cool. I think that's a good. It's good for the community. I don't get a lot of opportunities to see my nephew wrestle because obviously he does soccer, and then like in the spring he wrestles, and in the spring we're like all softball, so it's tough.
yeah. Jeez. So anyway, wrestling has started. Had a
Yeah,
had a good week last week. There's some events and had some results come in. Not a whole lot of craziness other than just finding weights and everything. What kind of things did you see that kind of opened your eyes? I mean, I know we were talking a little bit beforehand and probably rehashed a lot of the stuff we were just talking about.
yeah, I got to see a little bit. I mean, the semi-state rankings came out on Wednesday. They're probably done on Monday. I don't think I told Joe till later when everyone was giving me kind of a hard time. I was like, man, they're done. I don't know why I didn't tell them. But just kind of seeing some of those guys in the different weights. I know Calumet had something over there, so I got to see some of the Lake Central weights. Some guys I thought that were going to be a lot bigger. You see them what they wrestle in the off season. I know not a lot of people. Some people are against cutting in the off season or losing weight in the off season. Like I know Kyrell Lavelle. I think I had him up a lot higher. He ended up at 120. 120 is gonna be. I mean, 120 is like one of those weights where it's always gonna be stacked because you got so many underclassmen that are sixes and 13s, and you get like a good amount of 120s that end up staying there. But that's gonna be a stacked weight. You got your top four are all semifinalists, and then you're also gonna have Toby Billerman, who was a semifinalist, and Zirkelbach, who was also a semifinalist. So not bad. A lot of guys, you know, wrestling the top four in that weight class right now. Like obviously that could always change, but I thought that was pretty interesting. I seen Delta and Alexandria wrestled. No, they had some guys that were in the rankings, so we were able to move some of their guys around. Um, we had the John Hurdle. Was it Hurley?
Early, yeah.
John Hurley. And Capital City. So those are always good early season tournaments. Again, I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago with Purdue Polytechnical. They have some really tough guys on that team. I mean, it's unfortunate they're not going to be able to participate in the state series. I think their heavyweight's really good, and we were talking about Silas Foster's there, and he's pretty good too.
Yeah, Silas Foster was second at middle school state 2 years ago, and I was rattling off who he beat. He beat Hayden DeMarco. He beat um, Stanley, who's pretty good. And then he went to South Dakota last year. I don't know. Obviously, there's an interesting story there, and now he's at Purdue Polytech. Um,
I don't know. Are they at the Harvest?
So yeah, someone put that they were in there. Just today I saw that. I can't remember where someone put it in there. Maybe I did. I saw it
Nice.
somewhere. I don't know. I've been updating those schedules way too much, a lot. So yeah, that Foster kid's pretty tough, and I know he's like a Connorsville kid originally. I'm fairly certain, and so that's and they don't have and that Lattimore. I know Lattimore is one that we had him in the rankings early on, and I'm like, I don't think these guys can wrestle in the tournament. And then so we kind of pulled him out. I mean, he'd be ranked. He'd definitely be ranked. Foster,
Oh yeah,
right on the bubble, if not being in that area of being
yeah. I
ranked.
mean, they had wins over Captor and Captor. You know, obviously Nebraska. No, how do you say it? I'm sure Bill will give me the pronunciation later. But real tough kid. So just early on, you're really early on. I think we're just seeing all the people, changing weights. Franklin Central. I know they had a tragedy this week in their wrestling community again, right? Like another one. We were talking about it through text. Just it's been a crazy year. And they had I seen that had got posted this week. They wrestled this weekend. They're really good up top, and I didn't know how those guys were all going to fit in. And Johnny Weishaupt is back at 170, and they got all those guys in the lineup, so that's just going to help those guys out.
Yeah, and Jordan is down to 195, which probably is a smarter move, especially if he's not a big cut. to get there. I did see where I found Purdue Polytech was at the Harvest was on their track thing on their track profile. So that's where I found that today. I added that. I added the link to it, and I'm like, oh, making sure the teams are all good, and saw them in there. So that they have a few good kids. I know those kids get around. They brought a good group up to IPO, I think that's, I don't know, that's a weird school. I'm not 100% certain if that's one of the IPS schools that kind of branched off, because now there's IPS. I saw there's one school, it's like KIP something, and then they have all weird names now, so it's hard to keep track of. And it's hard to
I'm
get
sure
information
someone
out of that area.
I'm sure someone will give us the breakdown,
Yes.
but it's just one of those things where Lattimore is really good. Like he's a solid heavyweight. And then we kind of waffled, but I mean, it opens the door. It kind of opens like a weird door if we end up putting them in the rankings with like the guys from Fairhaven. I know we've talked about Fairhaven in the past, where they had some guys that were really good, like Gideon Ramos and some guys like that were out there wrestling at the Carnahan. Now, if they go and they're top 4 at the Carnahan this year, we might have to give them some token rankings, They obviously, but they've had some success over the last couple of years, but they don't participate in the state series, so it's tough.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just looking at some of Lattimore 2 years ago in 2020. He lost 3-1 to Amadande, so he's right there with some of the better guys. So he's, I mean, it's kind of an interesting, just weird. I know someone was looking to do a story on them, and I'm not certain what the whole story is with. Maybe we'll have to do one on Purdue Polytech just to figure out what's going on there, because they have some good kids. I know their kids are putting some time into it, and their coaches are going a lot of places, taking those kids all over the state and all over, even some national level events and things like that. So, one of those things that, obviously they have some good kids. So, yeah, Adam, I saw. Yes, I did. I didn't realize that was East Noel, the one that was causing the fun stuff. I know COVID's still out there, unfortunately, and we're gonna have to deal with that again this year. Hopefully, it's not as bad. But I saw Delphi canceled their event on Saturday. I think it was like a real short notice. So I know there are a handful of teams there looking to wrestle. So those teams might be looking for events. If you have an opening for an event coming up, contact them. You guys want the list of teams that were there? I can probably pull it up. But it's one of those things that I think we're gonna. Hopefully, it's not. It doesn't seem like it's gonna be as bad, but we've already had, a few events already affected right now. So I'm hoping we don't have to deal with that, because that really have this nice, great schedule feature, and it's gonna make it all go to crap if if we have too many changes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's obviously they always try to play it safe. It's difficult, but I think we're hopefully we're past the hardest part of it. Like we kicked the season off. We had like 2 right off the bat where we had 2 older coaches or former coaches that passed away, and you hate to see that,
Yeah, definitely. That's one of those. It was not a good start to the season. It just was been a really rough off season and started the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just really weird. I don't remember. I mean, I think we have a pretty good memory of this, but I don't remember like it just being this like we lost this many wrestlers, and we talked about it maybe the first show where like a lot of guys that were in the rankings. I mean, this was another guy that was in the rankings. They I think they were in the watch list, but it's weird to take a kid and pull them out and say like they're out for like wrestling or injury or anything like that. It's just like a very weird thing that the rankings I haven't had that.
Yeah, seems like we have quite a few guys on the out list this year, probably a little bit more than we usually have.
Especially early on.
Yeah, this early, we have lists that some of the weights where there's 3 or 4 guys that are on our watch list that are out for random reasons. I mean, we kind of keep them on there so we don't forget, and we're not like, oh, we need to insert this guy and then realize that, oh no, he's been out because of like Sergio Lemley. Obviously, we're probably not gonna forget him, but he's one that we keep on those lists just so that we remember who he is and what we don't forget about it. So then there's just random kids that are out for random reasons. Maybe they didn't come out for wrestling. Maybe they moved on. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they're not varsity. So
that's a good win for Morton.
Yeah.
The new and improved Hammond Morton.
Yeah. And we were talking about that beforehand. We need to if your team is wrong with especially those Hammond kids, make sure you send me a message. Because I know there's some that we weren't 100% certain where they were going to end up, and there are a couple I thought I thought was going to end up at one school. Now they're at a different one and stuff like that. I know I don't exactly understand it. Just tell me where they're at and we'll fix them.
Yeah, I mean it's as easy as that.
Yep, it's pretty easy fix for us. So all I gotta do is know where they're supposed to be going, and it's a couple clicks and they'll be popped up on the new team stuff. Yeah, he's another.
Yeah.
Johansson, according to what we have learned, Edgar Decker is not wrestling. But anyway, this week or last week, I guess we'll go back to last week. Couple big. I know that Columbia City was involved in a couple big duels. They wrestled Prairie Heights. There was a 39-31 match. Prairie Heights won. That's pretty impressive for Prairie Heights. They have a pretty solid team.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the results. They did a good job.
Yeah, that should be interesting. Columbia City wrestles Belmont tomorrow in their heated rivalry. The last weeknight duel for them, as they'll be going to the ever popular weekend. Get all your conference duels in one weekend format next year, which I'm not really the biggest fan of. I think that kind of hurts those teams. Conference matches are pretty important for rivalries and bringing fans in, and doing it over one weekend, you're kind of hurting yourself. I think they could have maybe changed it to doing a 5-way and then having 2 conference duels that are, because I know that Columbia City Belmont match is really big, lots of fans, great rivalry. Now they're not going to do that, and that I think that kind of hurts the sport. I'm not a big fan of going to the 2-day events. I think that hurts the sport more than anything.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think we've done a good job of really, pumping up the weeknight duels. Not us, but like the communities, making it a big thing. And then you've had some, better coverage media wise, whether it's streaming services but maybe with COVID, if you could just lose one whole day. I don't know. You'd seem if you wanted to lose one, you'd want to lose a single, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that if I'm doing my calculations right, that means Belmont will have 3 2-day events on their schedule next year. That's I think that hurts the sport more than anything, having those 2-day events. I don't like I understand you want to get all your conference duels in and maybe open up a couple non-conference duels. But I think having that all day thing kind of hurts. ACAC does it. I know out in the SAC up here is not going to do that this year. They're not having their conference duels from what I have gathered. I think they're just going to do a straight individual tournament to determine the champion, and that's the champion. So I'm definitely one, for duels, good duels. Belmont brings a lot of fans. Columbia City brings a lot of fans, and there's a lot of good rivalries within conferences that we're missing out on a weeknight because random fans aren't going to come on a Saturday to sit around and watch your team wrestle 10 times. So
they had a full house tonight at the Hobart field house watching elementary kids.
Yeah, and people are more likely to come out on a weeknight. Plain and
I
simple.
even had to stop and get cash, man. I thought they were gonna charge to get in. Zero cover.
Zero cover. Man, they're missing out on a. They could
I
have built it.
know.
They could have built the Zach Johansson statue outside if they had taken $5.
Yeah, man. Even if it was $3, you could have got some money. I would say this. My only criticism of the whole event: no concession stand.
What?
I went there, tried to get some popcorn. Nothing.
Man, at least you know what, we know who to talk to. Johansson and Cook. You can file that complaint. I'm sure that will they'll fix that for the next time.
They said we started too late, man. Now they're going to cancel the petting zoo at Prairie Heights. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh man, I wanted to do the school farm tour. All our kids are excited to see the petting zoo. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to hold my nose at Prairie Heights tomorrow night with all the cow manure. I'm sure they're gonna spread it out in our locker room and make us go to have the pink locker room that they always make us use. So
what is that supposed to mean? What does that mean, Joe? Hey, you're walking a thin line. Don't get canceled right now.
Yeah, it's kind of fun going to Prairie Heights because it's like it's like a time warp. You go from Carroll, which is nice and fancy and has like indoor plumbing, electricity, heat, things like that, and then you get to Prairie Heights, Brushy Prairie as they call it. I think that's the official town name, and you get you get a time warp of back in the olden days. It's almost Amish.
That's how we talk about it when we go out east to you guys.
Victory Bay has plumbing, indoor plumbing. So
I think every time I go out to Fort Wayne, I say, "Do you guys even have hotels, or you guys just stay at Super Motel 8s?" I need something with a non-door to the outside, please.
Nice.
That's the Eric McGill. Eric like freaks out if there's a door to the outside, not like a hallway.
Oh, do not ask him about the one year that I didn't go to NCAs and Chad got the hotel in St. Louis.
Yeah, not a fan. I didn't know. We had to go to NCAA's and he was freaking out about our hotel the whole way there. We drove, and man, like he was like just like, man, I was like, you didn't look at the picture? He's like, no, and I'm like, come on, man. Like we get there, he's like, oh, thank God. And I was like, it was a kind of a dumpy hotel. I was like, what were you thinking? He's like, a door to the outside. I said, a door to the outside? Like, where are we staying?
And a physical key.
Yeah. Bad hotel, that's a young man's game.
Yeah. Do not stay at the America's Best Value Inn in St. Louis. Of course, it's of good value, but it's not very good area.
I would rather just spend the money, man.
Yeah. So I guess that's how if you have a group of friends, I'll give you guys a hint. That's how you get fired from ever getting the next hotel. Is do one time really bad, and no one will ever ask you again. I think that was Chad's strategy.
We went. Me and Osi went out to California, and LAX is like kind of in the hood. Like it's like everything you ever heard in rap music. You're like, there's Compton, Inglewood, Like where are we staying at? Like, this is all the songs that Snoop and Dre were talking about. And then we go to this hotel. They're like, did you lock your car in the garage? And I'm like, I had to like put in that cage. They're like, yeah, like we'll give you a pass. And I was like, dude, where do you? And Kim set the hotel up for us. She just make sure you lock the top bolt. And I was like, man, this is a terrible hotel. I was like right by the hotel, right by the airport.
Nice.
Not the best area.
Yeah. Jeez. So anyway, this week, Warren Central at Lawrence North. We'll see a little bit more of Warren Central. I know they graduated a lot. They had a good weekend this weekend. Lawrence North has some solid kids. I got my boy Jacob Avon right here talking to our guy. So,
Lawrence North just finished up with football this weekend or last weekend.
I don't know. And I know they wrestled this past weekend. They had a event at Lawrence. I don't know what they were sporting. If they're sporting a full lineup, they lost to Franklin 45-28 and Mount Vernon Fortville 45-25. So, I mean, hanging 28 on Franklin's pretty solid. So that, I mean,
Yeah.
they're gonna battle, and that'll be be interesting. Yeah, Belmont, Columbia City, as we mentioned, get to see Crown Point tomorrow night. They'll have Portage.
Yeah. We have a game, so I won't be able to go, but that's always a good one to kick the year off for the DAC.
Yeah. They got Carroll freshman football game. Wow. No, only one can. Ouch. Yeah,
Man,
there's shortages of everything. There's shortages of everything now. I think that's just what we
you
call
guys,
when we can't
you
get
guys
what we
don't just like
want.
you guys just don't make your parents work the concession stand.
Yeah, they
So like,
well they have different sports are supposed to schedule for each event. They're like our AD schedules it, and like we do a couple, like 3 or 4 events, and I don't know. I would have to see who was supposed to work it unless something fell through. So anyway, back this
I
week.
used to have to work concession stands for like a soda and a hot dog.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gotta get a free hot dog. So Harrison will be going to Perry Meridian. That should be an interesting duel. I know this isn't a Harrison that's been there for the past few years, but they're always gonna have solid kids. And Perry's breaking in some new faces also, as is all of Newcastle. I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about that. I know someone was like, man, Newcastle doesn't have quite a few guys ranked as they usually do. And what I know that they just graduated a ton of kids last year.
I feel like they do like a dig in there. Like, yeah, if it's Crown Point, Mater Dei, Brownsburg, and then Evansville. And I'm thinking like those are some of the top teams in the state. Like those guys are going to be ranked. Those guys are like the best team right now. If your team wasn't mentioned that, I'm sorry. Send all your hate mail to Joe. But like, yeah, like those guys are going to be. Those guys wrestle big events. They have good results. So that's how you get ranked. That's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many different. I mean, the one guy said that there's like one returning state placer and one qualifier from like 60 through 95 or something, which is just crazy.
That is crazy
to think of.
I think it's because
Weishaupt was at 182 last year. Now he's down at 70. I was just looking at the results there. So that's going to be
not bad.
I mean, I think Newcastle's going to get better. They're all their good teams are kind of reloading at the same time, which is very rare. Warren Central, Perry, Cathedral, and then you have Zionsville's pretty tough. Westfield's pretty tough. Carmel's going to have solid guys. So that's going to be very interesting to see who kind of emerges with those teams. They're going to be well coached. They're going to battle. They're going to be, battle tested throughout the season. So they're going to probably take some losses, get some good wins, and you never know what's going to happen at come tournament time, and especially kids that have been pushed throughout the season and have that experience wrestling all the tough kids.
Yeah. I mean, Cathedral had a pretty good run there with a lot of really good guys. But it's not like all of Indy's bad. Like that's like where Brownsburg's still Indy, Center Grove's kind of Indy, right? Is that considered Indy?
I mean, it's closer to Indy than it is any other big city.
So that'll be interesting. That'll be good for Center Grove to open tomorrow. I'm interested to see how they kind of fit all those guys in there. They have a lot of depth. I would be willing to bet they could probably put a pretty good B team together and go out and compete with some mid to high level teams, like kind of like what Perry Meridian used to do back in the day. I know Warren's done that. Brownsburg sent their Bs and they did pretty well.
Yep, they were second at the Hurley this week, and Perry sent I think they had their B team there too. I don't think they did as well, and I know Perry will have their B team this week at Homestead. I know they usually fare fairly well there too, so should be some. I mean, they're gonna those kids get a lot of experience, and that's huge for them to be able to wrestle those types of events as they're younger to see that level of competition.
I was talking to someone about like something like that in softball, like Crown Point Lake Central in our area, and obviously Indy has some really good softball too. But Crown Point Lake Central's softball teams were so strong. I was surprised they don't send them out to play other varsities, like lower varsities. And I don't know what the rules on. I have zero clue what the rules are actually, but I think that's always like a good level of experience. Like if you're a Calumet softball team, I was using that's where I went. Um, you're not going to want to play actual Crown Point, like a nationally ranked team.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be good for you, and it's not good for them. But you can play their backups or their B team, and they can get some good experience that way. So I'm always interested to see how that goes. But you're right, like the teams that have been able to do that consistently over the past 10 years, the Perry Meridians Penn had a really strong B team for a long time, and they would have varsity level guys that just couldn't get in the lineup.
Yeah.
And then when their guys, stepped aside, you had a pretty good idea of some of those guys that were able to step in the lineup, and you're like, oh, this guy, beat whoever at some point, and you're like, oh yeah, like Davey Clayton and Colton Cummings,
Yeah. No, that's that's something I think is really just a wrestling type thing. I don't know why other sports haven't kind of tried to catch on. I know some ads frown upon it, and it gets a little funky when you try to see, hey, you guys want what? Can you guys let our B team in? And some people don't want it, and some are fine with it. It's very wishy washy, and you gotta tiptoe that line. Um, Somehow Perry's been able to get into pretty much everything they want. I mean, it seems like they have a pretty good schedule for their B team. I know we've had some issues with it, and some teams like ask, hey, do you guys want to take our B team? No. So it's kind of really weird with ads, and some people frown upon it, and I don't know.
Well,
I think it's been
I'm sure.
abused to a certain point too, with some teams that try to say that they have a B team, but they have like 7 kids.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, yeah, the depth, like the depth thing, but like, if you're, yeah, like if you're trying to, I know, like I don't, and Maryville, like Penn would send their B team to their Tom Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was like, well, maybe we'll get their A team this year, and like you're like, oh, I get to wrestle Penn, and there's some bottom teams, and then they can beat up on, and then you're in wrestle, Harrison was there, Hobart's there now, and Maryville. But if you're going to like say, hey, we're gonna go wrestle some of these smaller schools, um, I think you would be happy to wrestle a team that has a full lineup. So you don't want to. I mean, and we talked about it a little bit off air. Like, you don't want to keep wrestling the same programs and just get forfeits. Like that's not good for anything. It's not good for anybody. You
No,
know.
that's I mean, yeah. I've been putting in those schedules since probably since September. Started putting in some schedules, and it's very, how do I put this politically nicely? You can tell the teams that are good. The teams that are good are going places. They're going to the better events. They're wrestling different competition. I mean, our goal is always not to wrestle the same kids or same teams more than once. Obviously, if we go to Al Smith, we're going to see some teams that we'll see possibly twice. But there's 32 teams there. What's a we already see Garrett. We'll see Hobart. We'll see Maryville. We'll see Belmont. We'll see some other teams that are there. But it's likely maybe a handful of guys double up. But at the same time, I don't mind seeing those types of kids twice. But I'm not gonna do it purposely and schedule 2 duels with those guys. And then when we even have our super duel, we have 8 teams in there now, and there's 2 teams we already see in duels, so we don't wrestle them. And then I talk to the other coaches like, hey, we already wrestled this team. I'd rather not wrestle them again. Okay, we'll figure it out. But that type of stuff, I know there's some teams that like to schedule lots of matches, and I think just to get to pad stats, and I think that's the wrong way to do things, and it shows. It definitely shows when you're a team that's on the bubble to go to team state and stuff, and I know you're on that committee and stuff, and I know
Yeah.
strength of schedule is very important. If you're going there and if you go to an event, you're averaging 6 forfeits, and you wrestle 9-10 matches, and you average 6 forfeits, and those matches, what good's that doing? What good's that doing your team? that kind of stuff.
And I know, like, and I've calmed down on it the last couple of years. But I used to be like a real, because obviously we started in East Chicago or Maryville doing the rankings there, and moving out of there. And I would get a lot of flack about Logansport. And they'd be like, well, this kid's undefeated. And I would always say, well, there's 3 or 4 Logansport undefeated champs that are going to lose in the ticket round to guys with 10 losses from when, Derek was at Mishawaka or Penn or the region guys. And they're like, no, we're going to get 10 this year. And they'd always get like 7 or 8. And I don't know if it's like just because of where like you are geographically, you're not trying to travel as much. We're pretty lucky. Like our part of the state has, a good wealth of, teams that are able to compete. But you still run into that. Like, I mean, how many times, you see like there's one team at the wrestle another team that's in their conference and it's at this. I mean, I always say like, and it's not like it's funny, but it's not funny. But like my brother had to wrestle like Alex Sertzis like 9 times, like over 2 years, like 9 or 10 times. Like how many times do we have to see Griffith? Like they're in our conference. We have a conference duel. We have a weeknight duel. We had a conference duel. They're in our county where I think they're at the Harvest at that point. Like branch out, man. Go. I like it when I always suggest like when people are like, hey, like, I talked to Bill about like who, they're adding all these teams from out of state to the Carnahan. I said, I want to see like some strong Fort Wayne teams come in. I want to see a strong team from the Lafayette area come in. I want to see some teams from down south. Just because, for us, we don't get to see those guys all the time. But I think it helps grow. And it's different. Like, I didn't realize, there's people that are like, oh, they wrestle that, like, hard region style. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is. And like, yeah, there's a lot more aggressive when they wrestle, and they it's going to be a little bit more. But you hear it at the Harvest Classic, or not the Harvest Classic, but the Al Smith. Like, even though that's not part of the region, those guys are, I guess, they call stalling quicker in the northern part of the state than they do in the southern part of the state. And it's good for those teams that go up there. I know Perry and Cathedral have been up there, because those guys are going to be picked to be at the state finals, and you don't want that. You don't want to be shocked by that,
Yeah, that's definitely, and that's one reason I think, that's a kind of a hidden reason why we travel a little bit. We have a lot of freedom with our schedule since we don't have a conference. We'll go to Westfield. We go to Al Smith. We're going to the Tom Cameron this year. We go a little bit all, around the state and see different, not only do we see different competition, but we also see a lot of different sets of officials so that our kids can kind of see that. And, sometimes it's more you're dealing with teenage kids who are stubborn. And sometimes they don't believe you that, hey, this ref's going to ding you for stalling if you don't move on bottom. And, they don't believe you. They're like, oh, no, I've never been called for stalling on bottom. Well, this ref's going to do it. Or this ref's going to be, and that's one thing, especially for Al Smith, we do talk about, hey, these refs, it actually helps us for most of our kids that are a little bit more aggressive. These refs are going to play into our favor a little bit more. So if you stay aggressive, good things are going to happen. But, down south, and we've even noticed like around the Indy area, they call stalling just a little bit differently, like on the mat. It's something that we have to get ready for as coaches, as kids, and the kids, we got to say, hey, this is going to be different. We have different refs that we know kind of their tendencies and what they're known for calling. And, you gotta play that game because you're going to see all different sorts of refs. So.
Didn't someone post a little bit ago that Morton won the Calumet thing? They just said like Central dominated. Coach Watkins. I'll take Coach Watkins' name as the gospel on that.
Yes.
I'm sure he's right on. Roland Beckham founded the program. His daughter I don't know if she's still the assistant AD at Maryville, but she was for a long time.
Nice. There are quite a few. We definitely need to know more stories about some of these named events. We were just talking last night on the I went down to Belmont, and we are in the I think we're in all named events. We're in the Tom Cameron, we are in the Bill Kerbal, we're in the Wild Bill. We only go in the Al Smith. We only go to events named after like former coaches and stuff. So
I would definitely say that Coach Watkins does a great job of explaining those events.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've done some work with like Region Sports Network, and they were like, "Why would you name the Trikoff after the old basketball coach that was there?" I said, "It's not that." But he on the program he'll hand out, and it'd be a breakdown of what Chris Trikoff did, and for the whole community of Calumet, the whole Calumet community, and why it's named that. And then Roland Beckham, obviously, I'm sure Coach Watkins can tell you a million stories. That was his coach, and I think those are really cool. But I feel like I think we talked about it off the air last week. Like, like you want like your event, if it's going to be a memorial event or named after you, to like be like, a really cool event, or, something, that's representative of you. Like the Al Smith, and obviously Al's still with us, but that's an awesome event. That was a dream. That was a vision that he had, the Mr. Walker tournament became the Al Smith. And it's like recognized as one of the best tournaments every year in and year out,
Yeah, definitely. And that's pretty cool that, it's always, after being there enough, you hear that story every year, but it's still kind of neat how it started out as like 16 team event. And then it's just grown, and, Steve, every coach is kind of taking it to a little bit different level. And Steve's starting to make it even tougher and kind of weeding out some of those teams that aren't filling their lineups, or, not having, the kids that they, not having the stronger teams, and bringing in some new ones. And every time you look at it, oh, wow, that team's here. So, he does a good job filling in good teams there.
And I think it's good for both parties. Like, you don't want to just be part of an event because it's a prestigious event. You want to compete where you can compete, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how your kids are going to get better, by wrestling at the level they need to be wrestling at. Like, if you go there and you get beat up twice, there's no reason to be in that event, right?
Yeah.
And probably there's someone that's going to be right there. And there's a lot of good holiday tournaments, a lot of really good holiday tournaments. Connersville is a good holiday tournament. Mooresville. So you have these tournaments where you want to get guys in areas where they can compete, because at the end of the year, like you're trying to develop to make a run at state. And I always thought that was a really cool thing with, some of these coaches that have guys that have, 10 or 12 losses, and then they're making. I always said Maryville, like Dave does a really good job of, getting guys to believe in his system. Guys that are, you see, think, man, that kid's going to find a way through the state finals. He's going to find a way to get a medal. Like if I would have told you, Jason Streck would have been as good as he was at the end of his career, at the beginning of his career, you probably, outside of his brother's success, you probably wouldn't, necessarily believed it, but those guys really buy into that system.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the same teams that are bringing kids with, 5 to 10 losses to state every year. And there's a reason for that, because they have 5 to 10 quality losses. I know I do the article of who are your losses to, one of my favorite ones. And you see these kids like, okay, well, he has 10 losses, but look who he's lost to. He's lost to the top 5 guys. He's been stuck in a area where he wrestles these guys a couple times, and now he has 8, 10 losses, and but he's still state placer. So that's always neat to see. And it's the same programs year after year that are doing that, and that's because of solid schedules. And you have good kids, you need to get them exposed to the better competition. You can't just be sitting at home and wrestling lower tier competition to pad your records.
Oh yeah, like I said, like we would see it all the time, and we would see kids from, that would come undefeated to the semi-state, and that was a different animal, man. Like, it's just a different atmosphere. And if you're not wrestling those big matches, it's tough.
Yeah, that Yosef makes a very good point about the smaller schools with good kids. Yeah, that is, it's one of those things that it's tough to get into some tournaments. I mean, I've been at the smaller school. It's a matter of, it hurts those kids just as much, and it's a matter of coaches making good connections with other coaches to be able to get in those bigger events.
Yeah. But I think also to that, like, there's some events where, that are tough that you can get into and still have success. Like, the Harvest Classic's a tough event. You're going to have some tough teams there. And I don't think that, like, Luke's, hunting people out of there. Maybe they are. I don't know. I'm not behind the scenes. I can't do it this year. I had to take it off my Twitter. I can't be the voice of the Harvest Classic this year.
Oh man.
I know, man. One off the resume. Um, we're playing that weekend. But when you can find, I think you can find events that fit you, but like you want to spread it out and go, like I think that you hit it on the head. Like if you're gonna go get an official from the North, like they are gonna call it quicker. Like to me, I feel like and that's the wrestling I watch. So when we go to state, I'm like, why isn't this guy calling stalling right
now? Yeah.
Like I'm confused. Like what is he doing?
Yeah.
I'm like the mom. Like he's stalling.
Yeah, no.
He's choking him.
Watkins. You see Watkins' comment about the Al Smith when the AD invited 8 teams and forgot to include the home team. That's a classic AD move.
Yeah, I hope that's a true thing. They need to put that in the article, right? Like that's a long read. I will tell you that when they hand that to you, that's intimidating. Like I don't read a lot of things on air. So like you're like, oh man, like this is like someone is taking time to put this together in a certain way that they want it to be read.
You need to get it ahead of time and pre-record it and then just play it.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, we need Kevin Whitehead to say it because he is the voice of Indiana wrestling. That's who needs to kind of voice record it and play that because there's no better person to narrate anything Indiana wrestling than Kevin Whitehead.
I thought I did a pretty good job. I mean, but it's definitely intimidating. They give you, it's like a full sheet.
Yeah.
But Steve's done an awesome job, man. He's an awesome dude. I think that tournament's getting tougher every year, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really cool.
That's gonna be a fun seating meeting.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna be.
Sorry, we got a kitten this week.
Uh-oh.
And he thinks he runs the house now. It's OC's birthday present.
Oh.
My daughter's birthday was on Saturday. We got a kitten. Now he runs this place.
Oh, nice. And he wants to be on Gorilla Radio.
Yep, he just came right across.
I saw that and I'm like, what? Zoom announce. Nice. Kevin Whitehead to Zoom announce the Harvest class.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a little bit of our rant. I see, especially when you put those schedules and you just see these teams and it's not the teams they're teams that want to be good and act like they're good, but they wrestle crap schedules and then they complain when they're not at team state. And it's just like, well, you're not helping yourself. You don't wrestle anybody. You go here and do this. And then you claim some bias by all these people up north or whatever. It's like, come up north.
They said it about me. I had no bias. I did a write-in vote last year, man. Do you think that it's partly because they can't get into events, or do you think it's because they like some of the areas have to be kind of like further away from some of the bigger events, right? Like you become like, I'm not sure. My Indiana geography is not the greatest. I can kind of give you an idea of some areas, but like, are these teams like isolated? Like Lafayette, like you have to kind of go like an hour, right? Like unless you're wrestling on the Lafayette schools, you're going an hour to Indy, you're going an hour out to like South Bend, you're going an hour to the region. I mean, it's not bad for a Saturday. I'm sure you could do that. Like, I don't know how close everyone is in Fort Wayne if you guys are pretty spread out. Like I said, we're pretty lucky. We're all kind of right on top of each other. We're like 35 minutes away from everybody, and we're like 35 minutes away from Chicago, one of the best cities in the world.
Yeah,
unless you're on the south side, then it's not.
I mean,
but like the actual city is really nice.
Yeah. I mean, we're about 45 minutes away from Prairie Heights. I mean, that's a little bit of a trek on a weeknight. Luckily, we don't have school on Wednesday. But
you guys are taking Blackout Wednesday down?
Yeah, and then we have early morning practice. That'll be fun. But yeah, it's a little spread out here, but we can get, even Belmont's 45 minutes away from us by bus. So that's a little bit of a drive, but down south there are a little bit more spread out. But then just you got to be creative with your schedule. You got to be able to you got to know where the big events are and make a point. Hey, let's travel. Let's do an overnighter and go to Evansville and see some of those good teams, or make it up north to Mooresville for an event. That kind of stuff instead of sticking around home and wrestling the same teams over and over. I mean, that's the one thing that as a coach you got to be more creative and just do it. If it's a funding thing, do fundraisers. I mean,
Yeah.
I always put it. I mean, I've worked under some ads that were fun, just not as you have to play the game sometimes, and you don't always get what events you want. And I know it took us a long time to get in the Al Smith at Garrett, even though we had like a standing invitation for 3 or 4 years. And it's just a matter of once they say yes, you got to go and you got to do that, and you got to keep bugging them about it, and upgrade your schedule. And I think it hurts the kids. And I know some of these teams have some pretty solid kids that we would like to see, at some of the bigger events. We like to see them at a Mooresville or a Connorsville or a, even some of the better events down south, and a Modern Day Classic. That those kids need to see that, because then we can kind of get a decent gauge on exactly where they stand, and then and your team stands. And then when it comes to the voting area, Mike can say, well, this team went to Modern Day Classic, and they had 6 or 7 placers, and they 5 of them returned, so they're going to be pretty solid.
I think one of those things is like you start wrestling some of those better programs, and you might do well, because that is one of the things they do talk about. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it. Secret society, we got a handshake and everything. But like they'll look at hey, they wrestled whoever, Mishawaka. I don't know, I just use Mishawaka because we were talking about the Al Smith, 38-36. And they're returning their whole team. They have to be pretty solid. Yeah. That's a pretty good result. But I think more than anything is you start getting some of these, good individuals. Like, tell me a lot of programs that wouldn't want Tell City to come to one of their events right now.
Yeah.
And they're a smaller program, and they have so many good kids down low. It's like, those are guys that you want to see. And I'm sure I don't know who the coach at Tell City is, but if they call, I'm sure, some of those other programs would be picking up the phone.
Yeah. I think that they see a good schedule. Pull their schedule up. I think they they wrestle a good schedule. They get around. They go to Bo Henry at Bloomington. That's usually pretty solid. They go to Modern Day Classic. They'll be at Team State. Yeah. They wrestle a good schedule, but yeah, definitely, they come calling. They're testing themselves, and that's why they won Team State last year, I believe. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
1A Team State, and fairly dominant. Turn a lot of guys.
I mean, look at a program like who was I just saying? Jay County. If Jay County calls right now, and they can come into the region. I'm sure, hey, we got 6 guys that are in the semi-state rankings or in the state rankings. We can come compete. She's like, all right, come on, bring them in. Fort Wayne Snyder is going to get opportunities to compete with Vezi there.
Yeah.
People will say, hey, I was one of the things I told Bill. He's like, what do you think? He's like, I was like, man, you should invite Snyder to the Carnahan, because then you can have that guy competing with some of the top guys. I want to see him, competing with some of the guys around the country, and things like that. It's just those guys all talk.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
They're gonna say, hey, obviously I was trying to get those guys to invite you to the Carnahan for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. We just have our Carroll Super Denim duels that weekend. Unfortunately, it's not as tough as the I mean, it's pretty solid, but it's more of a sectional. We wrestle a lot of sectional teams there, which is good for seeding. But there's still some solid. I mean, it's pretty solid this year. All the teams are. I think pretty much everyone has a full team, and fairly competitive. So it's kind of hard to get out of that for the Carnahan. Even though they've been asking for years, and it's just a bad date for us, or we'd probably look into it. It was a week earlier.
But now you can go hang out with Joe Hansen. He can take you around the region, show you some good spots to eat. You got the Maldonados there.
Yeah.
Harrison comes there.
Yep. Yeah. I'm excited to come to the region. in a few weeks. Hopefully we'll get they'll roll out the red carpet, and and like you said, coaches talk. And I know we had an event last year that got canceled, and we found out late Saturday, and by Sunday evening we were in another event. That's kind of the networking. I've been lucky to I have some connections. I sent a few texts. Actually, we ended up in two events and had to cordially decline one. So, but yeah, that's one of those things that you got to be able to looking out for your program at all times. So
Well,
I
and
I
then
had a
I think
pizza puff, Zach. I did have pizza puffs. I even bought a
he,
case of
he
them.
air fries them.
Yes. I,
I think, but I seen Quinn had commented in here.
yeah.
Like, if you're a program like Cascade, you have to start going to some tougher, and I think he will. Like, I think he's gonna do a good job there. But like, he's in a monster regional. Like, you can't go in there hoping to be 30-0 and not wrestle any of those guys.
Yeah.
You know, like that thing's a monster.
Yeah. And 30-0 there is not going to get you a number one seed though,
No,
because you're going to have returning. I mean, one of the criteria is returning section semi-state quarterfinalists, which is a ticket rounder. I would guess almost every weight class is gonna have one of those. So you can go undefeated, and not wrestle anyone, and not get the number one seed. So you're still kind of screwed. You might in some of those weight classes, you might be a third or fourth seed just based on that. So
yeah, and it's just a tougher area, But I mean, I think it's just like a crazy thing. It's I don't know. And I know Coach Watkins had posted in here. He was always very much like, hey, we're going to wrestle the toughest schedule and we don't care about our records. And, we'll take a guy with 10 losses against the undefeated guy every day. And that worked out for them a lot,
Yeah.
Because there would be guys with 10 losses that would be beating undefeated guys all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're just battle tested, And I think that has a huge part to do with it.
Yep.
Now, on the flip of that, if you don't belong in those events, I still believe wrestle to your level a little bit. I'm not like, hey, like we got a whole team of first year guys. We're taking them to the Carnahan. Like, not going to be the best event for you.
Yeah.
Like, they're inviting some national powers there.
Yeah. And you got to, I mean, even if you do have, I mean, a lot of times, like when I was at Garrett, we had some pretty good kids, but then we also had some not as good. We had different tiers of kids, and it was more, you had to balance your schedule out. I know we would wrestle like Yorktown and Belmont early in the season. Then we'd kind of soften the schedule a little bit, and then we'd have a couple other tougher events, and then soften the schedule a little bit. You got to keep those kids around and keep them interested and not wrestling tough teams every week. But at the same time, you got to get your better kids ready too. So it's a juggling act that you got to do as a coach, and if you're at one of those teams, you got to make sure you get your teams. Get your good kids tested, because those are ones that you're gonna be. Those are the ponies you're riding at semi-state and state, so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, Alabama still plays like Mercer, like there's a reason they have to get some guys some work.
Yeah. One of the toughest Texas. Oh yes, I had lunch with Yosef at who's number one. Learned quite a bit about Texas wrestling. And one of the interesting things, I'll bring that up since he's talking about his kids, and you have to be a teacher in the building to be a coach, like even head coach and assistants. So I would not be a coach there unless I got my teaching degree. It's very interesting, and kind of one of the reasons why wrestling hasn't grown as much in the past. As you would think it would there, because they got to find people in the building that have wrestled or coached wrestling. So that's a little bit harder, and you can't just pick up random bums like you stuff off the street and let them coach.
And coming at my guy like that.
He took me to some good barbecue. Not bad in Texas. So he had a good time. We had a good lunch. I think we bored his son to death. Talk about wrestling and stuff, and so it was very interesting, very eye opening when you talk to someone from another. I mean, obviously he's from Indiana, but he's in another state, and kind of some of the things that I would have just never thought of. Texas is so big and they have great football. Why wouldn't they be starting to really go go places in wrestling, but when you can't find wrestling coaches, that's gonna stymie your growth a little bit.
What about like the private schools? Like, could you? Because that wasn't like, what was the school there? It was like Bishop, where they had like Kenny Monday and some of
Bishop
those guys there.
Lynch.
Yeah.
That one I would say, since that they weren't like in the Texas League, I think they could probably do whatever they want. I think they were national preps, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, so but I don't know about. I mean, he could probably comment on what a private school. Okay, private schools can do whatever they want. So, as everywhere else.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah. So, but that's a very interesting thing. That I was like, wow, I mean, and he got lucky and paid off some decent coach that had some good experience, Russell, like at Arizona State, to come coach his son. So,
And not bad.
so, but yeah, it's really interesting to hear things, in states. We complain about wrestlebacks. Can you imagine? I mean, I was like, man, I couldn't even imagine that in Indiana. That'd kill a lot of programs, especially a lot of small programs. If you had to be a teacher, be any coach. So, I was be doing Indiana mat full time. So, but anyway, any this week, going over some of the duels. We got some bigger events going on this week. We have the first ever Goshen event, the Goshen Red Hawk Duels. 2 days of fun. I'm gonna tell you the teams there: Belmont, Hanover Central, Lakeland, LaPorte. Maybe do we see a Ashton Jackson versus Rubel match? Maybe that'd be good.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Especially at an event where, I mean, it's not gonna be like crazy one way or the other. I think that that'd be a good matchup for them.
Yeah. South Bend Adams, Riley, St. Joseph, West Noble, Goshen, and Angola there.
I think Ike would do it. I feel like Ike's always up for a good match.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I mean, why not? It doesn't hurt anything to wrestle the best kids possible. So,
He's
Homestead's
blue
having
ring
a
chasing.
pretty good duel up here. Columbia City, Homestead should have a solid team. Yorktown, Perry Meridian's backups. They did have Northridge, but they dropped out because they're in football. There are Wawa C's having a few teams. Oh, there's a couple other better.
Center Grove opens tomorrow. Do a lot of the Center Grove kids play football? Also, I know they're still going.
I think they have some football. I think they have some of their bigger guys might, but I know like Buchanan doesn't.
Right.
He didn't. I think last year was his last year playing football and stuff. So, but I think they'll still be pretty solid. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, speaking of Bailey, there's a great article on him today and on the website, so check that out. We have a girls article coming out tomorrow, and then we'll have another one on Wednesday. So we're gonna pump you full of articles all week. So something to be thankful for. Indiana Matt. Make sure you guys say that at your family dinners. It's like, what are you thankful for? You say Indiana Matt, Guerrilla Radio, right?
It was a tough one tonight. We had a lot of stuff going on. Well, I had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. I gotta get ready for the big Prairie Heights duel. So, and then, reminders: report your results. Put in your individual results. Don't hide your lineup. It's not cool. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. Someone's gonna do it, and just do it. I don't understand why people are so adamant about not putting their results in. So do it, and we'll find it. Or I'll just put them in, and put them backwards so your team loses, and then that'll get you to report your correct results if I keep messing them up accidentally. So, and then also if you have any, I know some people have been asking about wrestlers and their profile pictures. You can actually edit those. You can add them, make sure they're appropriate. And you just go in their profile, press edit, and you can update the wrestler profile, the picture. season records, recruiting information, and a whole bunch of stuff in there. So make sure you guys get in there and do that for your kids. Sometimes I do it when when I'm bored. I find some pictures and put some pictures of kids up there. So, but it's pretty neat to be able to do that. So, those are my service announcements, my PSAs.
Yeah, I think it's it's not that, I mean, I don't know, it's funny. I find it funny. Like I'll get like upset like messages about rankings. Like I can't believe you didn't like know this. Like one, like how would I know? Like one, I live on the other side of the state from you. So like one, you haven't wrestled anything. I haven't seen you. You're upset that you're not ranked, and like you didn't like give me any information. And then they always close. It's the funniest thing. I can tell you like how 90% of these emails come out, like upset emails. I get happy emails too, but like you get like, hey, why isn't so and so Joe ranked? He did this, this, and this. Like, and I'm like, I don't know. I had him in a different weight class. I haven't seen him wrestle this year. You know, like, not that rankings matter anyways. Like, oh, okay. Well, it mattered so much that you took time out of your life to message me to tell me why isn't my kid ranked. I love that. Like, I'll get this like shitty or sucky email about like, hey, I don't understand this. Like, just be cool with it, man. Like, hey, my kid did this. Like, I think he deserves to be ranked. A lot of times, I just have him in a different weight class. Like, I'm guessing sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not like messaging me direct, if you personally haven't messaged me and you haven't competed, there's a good chance I'm not following your kid around the state to know what he's wrestling, unless he's wrestled IPO or anything like that. And then even then, sometimes it's wrong. Like some of those guys were wrestling much higher than they wrestled this past weekend.
Yeah, even like Weishaupt wrestling a weight class below than he wrestled last year. So it was Jordan. So, but
yeah,
you didn't know that until you saw those results from this past week, and like, oh, okay, and now they're going to be ranked in the right weight classes.
I do get grief about rankings, and then it'll be like, but that's one of those things that just like rolls right off my back. It doesn't really bother me.
Yeah,
like the criticism of that's like okay, but it's funny because they'll like be really upset, and then they'll close every like message like that with not that it matters anyways. Like okay, like I mean, we had a dad, a freshman that no longer competes in our state, and he sent like the all-time best. Dude, for real, I get a lot of New Way Ironman National Championship results. I'm not even sure I can find all those, honestly. Like they're like, yeah, he beat him in a tournament that wasn't on track. Just so you know, FYI, like, how would I know that? How would I know that this kid pinned this kid in the wrestling room? Like, how would I ever know this?
You don't have a camera there?
No. So I forgot where I was going with all that. But it'd be like one of the weirdest things. Oh, so this dude sent me this long email. It was to me and Joe, and told us that we didn't know about national wrestling, and that like it was like one of the best emails ever. I honestly, maybe when he graduates high school, we should just post it and be like, remember when this clown did this, sent this to us? Compared his son to Michael Jordan and Kyle Snyder.
Yes. Yeah. No,
told me that like Zeke Seltzer wasn't good.
Yeah, that was a fun one, and that's one of those things that I mean, it'd be if they won't post that stuff on the internet. I mean, if you posted like emails on like some of those things that you get, and I've seen some here and there, and I don't see them all, luckily, because they'll fire me up and be like, come on, dude, you know, it's not like trying to follow 300 kid schools and try to keep track of weights and keep track of everything is a daunting task. And now you're complaining about it because we can't find, because you don't post any of the information. You don't post results. You don't post, send them a message, say, hey, look out for that. I mean, how many emails do you get? Nice emails are like, hey, I think this guy should be, you should be looking at this guy. He did this and this and this. And then you're like, thanks. And then you put him on the watch list and you keep an eye on him.
I respond to every email. I respond to every message. I just think like if they're taking time to write me, I'll write them back. I would say we get probably maybe 2 a year of like, hey, you should be looking at this kid from this other school. Like, hey, we wrestled Carroll the other night. You might want to keep an eye on this guy. He's really good. I never get those.
Yeah.
I get the over and under. Like the best is like, one, I have 0 kids in wrestling. Both my daughters play softball, so it's not like I would love to like be everyone's buddy and rank everybody. That'd be great. But there'd still be people unhappy. Like it has no personal feelings attached to it whatsoever. So like when Saturday night of state, like I'm going out. Like I go to the state finals to have a good time. Like some people go there to watch their kids or stress out. I go there to have fun. And I'll get like emails, and those emails do get shared, whoever's around me or whoever's with me, of how I didn't believe in their kid and it was motivation for them. And I was like, man, like that's crazy to me. Dude, it's like 2 a year at least. Like how long have we been doing? How long have I been doing the rankings?
Well, it'll be 13 years in a couple weeks. So, but you've been doing
like how many times?
Team rankings or in the state for about 8 or 9, I think.
Like clockwork.
Yeah.
Just FYI, we proved your rankings wrong. Like, okay, cool, man. I'm a fan too.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know. I like pulling for the underdog. When I see like the rankings get busted, I'm as excited as anybody, unless it's someone that was like a real prick. But like, other than that, like, and it's not the kids, it's the parents. But like, other than that, I love that. Like, I love the exciting match. When Devin Weibel last year qualified for state finals, I might have been more hyped than the Hobart guys. Not as hyped as Joe Hansen. He was hyped, yes. But like second most. That was a guy that wasn't ranked, and I was like, but that's like what we love about the sport.
Johansson, we don't mention that kind of stuff in here.
Yeah. So then they but it's funny, man. I think when Oh Boy graduates, we had to post that. That one did get passed around a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that clown like tagged every ranker. Like now you just lost all the discretion that you won it. Like you're man, I remember he was like trashing Howie's kid. And I was like, you know that's Howie's son, right?
Yeah.
Like he was trashing Alex to Howie. It was like I think he just didn't understand that like Howie was doing the rankings.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
like I don't understand how this guy who has 0 national experience is ranked ahead of my son. And I'm thinking like, you're telling his dad that. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah. No, that's there's some fun stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and you know, for the most part it's not bad, but it's I mean, but one thing people don't realize, these are rankings and it's based on data and kind of where they should slot based on their results and stuff. But your predictions are not based on the rankings though. When you do your pick'ems, I mean, it's there's a like Willie does his crystal ball rankings that he's been doing every week, and he's like, you know, this is how I think it's gonna shake out at nationals, you know, and that's something that we could obviously do, you know, but at the same time, that's what, you know, the rankings are they're based on data. That's why they're rankings. They're not based on who you think, you know. You might have a guy that's ranked 10 or 12 and think, hey, I think this kid's going to make the semifinals. He just doesn't have anything in his resume right now to push him even top 10, you know.
But I mean, how many times have we had that talk? Like, and after the rankings are done, we've had that talk several times.
Yeah.
Like, hey, or we'll get like, well, that kid's not that good. Well, he's a returning semifinalist. He's better than I'll ever be. And side note to that, like you trashing him is like trashing me to my face, which kind of hurts. But so you're saying this kid's not that good, but he's a returning semifinalist, hasn't lost.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the real number 1 ranked kid. Well, he's been ranked number 1. He hasn't lost all year. Like, it doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter on it.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't like, which I do like Jesse Mendez, but if I didn't like Jesse Mendez and I was like, I'm going to rank him 2 today. Like, I don't think he'd lose any sleep, but there'd be a lot of people like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Then I would be the 900 pound hippo or whatever they are.
The only, I think we've only done a few times where we've kind of knocked a guy that hasn't lost from number 1 without.
Oh man, it would have to be
without someone bumping up.
But it would be like
guys bumped up, but I know last year Keith was number 1 for a while, and then we put in, was it in the modern day kid? What's his name?
Yeah. Well,
After,
because he had a monster weekend. He
yeah,
beat
after he had
like
a monster weekend, and we talked about it, and it was kind of we went back and forth, and that was a fun conversation of like, do you know Heath hasn't wrestled anybody, but this guy just had a monster weekend beating like 3 top 5 guys.
yeah, like yeah. So if you want to going back to scheduling, if you want to be ranked number one, schedule 3 of the top 5 ranked guys
Yeah,
on your team
yes,
and beat them, and boom, you're right up top.
yeah, and that's
We need
kind
to
of
start.
what happened.
We'll do like the Madden thing, right? Like we'll start getting people like the 99 rating. Like if you're ranked number one, we'll send you something cool.
Yeah, yes,
Preseason number one T-shirt.
preseason number 1, yes, in the wrong weight class, most likely.
Is it? Well, because the preseason's for like dreams.
Yes.
I just wrestled 45, but I'm gonna make 13. Okay, like I do it all the time. Cut 40 pounds all the time. Okay,
Yeah.
like cool.
Oh, those are the best ones. And it's like this guy says he's gonna wrestle 120, but he was just at 145 at IPO. I'm like, okay. And then the coach emails you like, nah, he's going 138.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um. Yeah. So I mean, and it's not like complaining. I just always found it to be funny.
Yeah.
I got a couple of those this week. I just got a couple of those this week that was like funny to me.
Yeah.
I took time out of my day to send you this long message and give you a resume. Not that it matters.
Yeah,
All right.
Manzona at 106. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Well, he wrestled like 98 or something all the year before, and then and we knew he was good, but we didn't have any information on him. That was a fun one. I think Danny. I think all your messages go to spam anyway to Mike, so don't you can try.
Danny does like but he doesn't like he's never complained about any of the rankings. He's more like, hey, get these things out, man. We need some talk. We need some conversation. No, everyone on here has always been cool.
Yeah.
Like everyone that like watches the show's always been pretty cool about it. It's like the guys that like these guys all post, like these guys post results. Like we're preaching to the choir right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I got yelled at one year at semi-state after a kid won, and the dad, he was very fired up, and he was that goes your rankings. I'm like, hey, don't do the rankings, but he was all excited, and then he ended up sending me a message later and said I was a little bit over the top there. I'm like,
yeah,
fine. He was, as this, like all my other people beside me are like, is he yelling at you? I guess so. I don't know.
That happened to me at the table at the Harvest Classic. Like, didn't say anything going out there. It was going to be a good match. And it was like 2 top 10 guys. And they were like, yeah, how about those rankings? And I'm thinking, like, I got to talk on the mic right now. Like, I can't even do this. I have to actually hit this button and congratulate you for being a champ. Oh, man, because IHSA messed us up.
Yes. IHSA on the state, semi-state and state brackets have him listed as a junior. And I thought they got a COVID year at Lake Central. I guess they don't.
Yeah. I thought Ponce was a senior last year, and I didn't even double check it. What we did, we went to the IHS. I was like, it says junior, but we got that fixed now. He's out now.
Yep, we pulled him. He didn't get the COVID year. I guess the Falcons said no.
Try to sell an extra magazine. One. Please. One last time, bud.
Yeah. So anyway,
every now and then a middle schooler slipped through there, be in the rankings. Ben Stewart got us one year, but it's because he took a red shirt, not because he wasn't not because he wasn't in there. Just we didn't know.
Yeah, we've had a couple. Like I know there's a couple, and I definitely do not know middle school that well. There's a few middle school kids I'll know of. And I'm like, I don't think that kid's I think that kid's an 8th grader. And so, well, whether he's a second time 8th grader or not, but I'm like, so then you have to go dig around and find middle school results or find something with a grade on it. So. Jason Ponce got his COVID year. He petitioned the IHSA, and Robert said he can have 5 years. So that should bode well for most Hobart kids, since 5 years is hopefully enough for them to graduate. Ouch. Sorry, Danny.
We'll have to do redshirt middle schoolers for another day. Man, I thought about it too. Honestly, I thought about like holding my daughter is small, and I was like, man, like I should just hold her back 1 year. And like I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
Like she's an honor roll student. Like how could I look her in the face and say, hey, I want you to stay in middle school 1 more year, Os?
Yeah, that's what I have 2 kids. My daughter is literally on the edge. Like July 30th birthday, the cutoff is August 1st to get into kindergarten. So we could have held her back. And there's actually a kid, it's a boy, which I fully understand that's a June birthday that they held back. And, I'm like, she was ready. And I'm like, Rocco was a little bit young. I'm like, should we? Like, small is not even they're beyond small. They're like, luckily they're taller than Diaz. So they do have one thing going for them.
Yeah, your kids are not going to be taller than Diaz. You stop that.
I'm hoping they have goals in life. And that's their one goal.
Same though. I blame Kim.
That's my wife's. I'm the center in the family basketball game when I go over to the region. So.
We also got a hate text last Tuesday. It wasn't much of a hate text, but out of all the academies that we talked about, we didn't give a shout out to Contenders. So we offered them to sponsor the show. They declined.
Money talks. I mean, we could use a sponsor. I mean, Contenders can pay us to talk about wrestling, and we'll plug them every so often. That if you listen to the Dane show, he has a bunch of sponsors. I
got some coffin sponsors and
the Haggard, Suffer, Hershey, and the drywall. If you need drywall, Paul Baker drywall, state champion. I mean, state champion drywalling. I mean, what more can you ask for?
But we didn't. We gave every. I don't even know if we named every academy, but he was disappointed that we didn't name Contenders.
Yes, they have a very good program, and we did not leave anyone out. That's
what I told them. Like it wasn't on purpose. But I did tell them we'd give them a shout out.
Yes, they produced some pretty good wrestlers from what
very good.
Like. They had some kids do real well at Tulsa this past weekend. I really didn't look at the results, but
I seen Sean was out there.
Yeah. They had one of their girls got like second, and I did want to say, last week we did have our first ever girls duel, Columbia City and Jay County, and they tied, and Columbia City won on the 9th tiebreaker. So props to those girls doing that. And then a pretty big Northview event. So I think.
Is that true? How tall do you have to be to ride the roller coaster? I think it'd be like 46 inches. You gotta be able to ride them, right? I got a funny story about Tulsa. So in high school, I dated a girl. She went to Calumet, and then she was from Oklahoma. She moved back there, so I went to go visit her. And she had like a nephew that was wrestling at Tulsa. And I don't know why she lied to her family and told them I was really good, because that was false. They're like, you should, because they used to have like an open that was conjoined with it. So like they would have the kids, and then they had like a college open, and or it was like a college event, and it was like Tyrone Lewis was in there, and Shane Roller was in there, and then they're like, you should get in this, and I was like trying to play it cool. I was like, I don't got shoes or a singlet. It's like, we got shoes. We can get you a singlet. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. Fly to Tulsa, get murdered by Tyrone Lewis in front of like my girlfriend at the time, which wouldn't have mattered. But like, that's not what I wanted to go out of town for.
Not what you're signing up for.
Yeah. I just wanted to go meet Danny Hodge, watch him rip an apple in half, and then, buy some technique videos and go home.
Nice.
But I remember like, I was looking at this thing, and I'm like, these guys want me to get killed. They literally want me to get killed.
The ISWA Folk Style State Finals, Veterans Division.
Even there, I might get killed. This was like legit, like killers though. Like Shane Roller was like fighting the UFC like Like, I don't know, not that time, but he was like a 4-time Oklahoma champ. Like,
Oh, jeez. So, oh yes, yeah. I think yes. Oh yeah, he's really good at wrestling. Oh
yeah,
no, no.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. She said you're really good. Like, we don't know if Indiana's really good at wrestling. Like, um, I don't think at this level can I wrestle these kids. And the kids were probably really good too.
Yeah, yeah. So, jeez. She's setting you up for failure.
I know.
You did.
They're like, do it.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what you want to do.
yeah.
Some of those
So,
guys are going out there wrestling veteran state with kids in the stands, man. Is that what they want to put on for their kids? Like,
yes,
I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, we were talking about doing the over the hill wrestling league. Like, is that
yes,
what you want to do? You want to show up to ISWA and see Jordan Humphrey over there?
yes. Jordan Reese Humphrey, like they did at Veterans
Yeah.
Worlds.
Is that
Goodness.
what you want? That's how you want to spend your Saturday. All right.
There's one guy, I think he was a Russian that Reese was wrestling with, and kind of popped Reese kind of hard with like a club, and Reese gave him two right back. I'm like, geez.
All right, we're going back. Jose says he's going to train me. I'm going to the Region Wrestling Club. Let's do it.
Yes.
The NWI.
You got to wear one of his
Should
singlets though.
Yeah. Let's go.
He's got to. We can't. Oh, we gotta mention his little club that they have a camp coming up. I think this weekend or something. It's a bunch of guys, so might as well.
They do an awesome job.
Yeah.
Me and Jose were talking about the other day. He gets a lot of those guys to come back, local guys train. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, we're working on Cook versus Jordan Humphrey too. I think Jordan wants revenge after all those pictures on Instagram. I think Rex Beckenpaul loved Mr. Cook because there are about 1,000 pictures of him on that the reel I got. I gotta get some new. I gotta pick a different year to post some pictures for next month. But yes,
Yeah, that's what I want too. The Criders, yeah, that's not what I want either.
I know Donnie wrestled in one I think last year or the year before. Yeah.
I legit think someone missed out on like a good opportunity to have a guy wrestle.
Yeah. I don't know where those are guys I want to do kind of a where are they now because they were tough and they would have done well in college just because their goofy styles and riding time and 4-point near falls would have done great for them.
Yeah. Nice. We should that'd be another thing. We could do like a where are they now? He said Walmart. That's great.
Hey Eric, I think you need to pick up your magazine. I think it's at the post office, by the way. I keep seeing that on my pirate ship thing. Hopefully it didn't get shipped back to me. Just as a heads up. Now while you're watching, pick up your magazine.
What if that wasn't even a joke? What if they really work at Walmart? And I was just like laughing at that. Can I?
I'll probably get it. I know. His mom has watched. Their mom has watched every so often. So it's harvest season. Yeah, get to the post office. Lives so far away, he doesn't even have a real address. He has to go to the post office. Nice.
That's how they get you, Joe.
Yes. So, any other? I guess, man, we made an hour and a half out of this. I know some people are getting ready for bed. Any other advice? Any other topics to go on? I think we're gonna start getting more wrestling, so we'll have more wrestling talk rather than find out where past wrestlers are working.
Yeah, man. If they're making 24 an hour, not bad.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Probably better on your body than the laborers.
Yeah.
Man, we missed an opportunity. Those guys could probably, be in the laborers, move a lot of stuff. But
I guarantee they're stocking the high shelves.
Man, I bet those dudes were so strong too.
Yes.
It's exciting to get the season start going. I think this, obviously some people wrestled this past weekend, but coming up, this is like the start of it. I always felt like the Harvest Classic is the start, but you're going to start getting a lot of, football's going to be ending this weekend. You get a lot of those guys back, so it'll be exciting.
Yep, some good matches.
Be exciting year.
Excited. As we're getting more results and stuff, lots more, action going on, and I'm kind of, it's one of those. It's the season's here. Hopefully, we have a good season and everyone stays healthy. Make sure stay tuned on Indiana Mat. We got lots of fun stuff coming up this year. We got lots of articles. I've already been sending them out to Steve and Jeremy, and they're cranking them out. So getting those going up again. Kind of missed those last year, and it's nice to have a lot of content on the website. So for people to check out, rankings should be updated this week, hopefully right before Thanksgiving. Everyone have a good Thanksgiving, and if you have to cut weight, I'm sorry, you only have to do it for a few years. So
yeah, don't worry about it. It's not as bad as it used to be back in the day. So
yeah, yeah, you don't have to
probably not
get the fat test. So
yeah, probably not as fun still, but not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, so
you always have that looking forward to.
With that, we're going to let you guys go, and we'll see all of our great friends next Monday night and talk more wrestling and send in your results.